Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. After a long night of negotiation, ExxonMobil and 140 local union members have reached a tentative agreement.
That contract deal reached just before 5 tonight, avoiding any shutdown or potential strike. Employees remained on the job and the plant in Lockwood continues running at its full winter operation.
Now, a full day of negotiations picked up at 10 a.m. this morning between ExxonMobil and the United Steelworkers Union.
Q2's David J. following this story and is standing by with some breaking news. David?
Russ, Jeanelle, we're not getting a lot of details, but ExxonMobil and the union negotiated on local issues to reach a tentative agreement. One worker told us yesterday he liked what the union negotiated nationally with the 11% pay increase over 3 years. ExxonMobil workers rallied outside the refinery late last night while the two sides negotiated until midnight. They were not picketing and it was not a demonstration. The United Steelworkers local reached agreement with Phillips 66 and with Cenex Harvest States on Thursday. And today, ExxonMobil and the union reached that tentative agreement late this afternoon. The United Steelworkers local chair Derek Weber and spokesman for ExxonMobil Dan Carter say the 140 members will vote on ratifying the tentative agreement sometime next week. Neither had any information about the local issues that were negotiated. Jeanelle, Russ?
Thanks so much, David.
And we want to talk about the weather for a second. Really nice out there today, but boy, is that ever going to change before the weekend's over.
It's before the weekend's over. That's the truth, because tomorrow's not quite so bad, but it starts getting worse as the night goes on Saturday night. Here's what we have in store for you. Take a look at this. This is our threat board, and man, that thing's starting to get full. As you'll just notice, we have a winter weather advisory, a winter storm warning, and a winter storm watch. And basically it's for different amounts of snowfall. You can see here in the Billings area, we're expecting maybe 3 to 6 inches of snow, according to the National Weather Service. Up there by Glasgow, it's more like 4 to 8 inches of snow. By Great Falls, 10 to 16 inches of snow over. But Red Lodge could see maybe a foot or more of snow expected in that area. And here's what's happening. You notice the snow is going to be with us throughout most of the day on Saturday and right on into Sunday. So that's what's going to happen. The stuff will start falling in on probably about Saturday night, about 6 o'clock, and then the snow just moves in and stays with us all day on Sunday. Let's go back to the desk.
All right, thank you, Bob.
A wrongful death lawsuit filed against the city of Billings is heading to trial.
38-year-old Richard Ramirez was shot and killed by officers in April of 2014. Ramirez was a passenger in a vehicle that had been pulled over by police. He ignored several commands by Officer Grant Morrison to raise his hands.
The police later found a syringe and methamphetamine on the floor of Ramirez's seat, and toxicology reports showed he had methamphetamine in his system when he died. An attorney for the Ramirez family argues the shooting was an excessive use of force.
In January 2015, a coroner's inquest jury ruled the homicide was a non-criminal justifiable homicide, and Officer Grant Morrison returned to duty.
A trial date is set for 9 a.m. on March 4th.
The man arrested in Wednesday's Butte bus standoff and hostage situation was charged today in Butte Justice Court. 52-year-old Dave Anthony Gibson of Spokane, Washington was charged with felony aggravated kidnapping and felony assault with a weapon. The charges come after Gibson held a man hostage at gunpoint for several hours, according to police, inside a Billings-bound passenger bus at the Butte transfer station. He surrendered to police later that evening.
The defendant, Dave Anthony Gibson, purposely or knowingly caused initials BB, an adult male, reasonable apprehension of serious bodily injury by the use of a weapon by pointing a pistol at him.
The judge set Gibson's bond at $100,000.
A Billings mom and her 4-year-old boy are without a place to live after a toaster started their home on fire yesterday. And to top it off, the family does not have insurance. Jill Fox tells us her home caught fire just before 11 a.m. Thursday when she left for about an hour to run errands. She says the toaster cancel button malfunctioned and eventually sparked some nearby paper plates on fire. Then flames engulfed the kitchen. There is smoke and water damage throughout her home, and in all about $120,000 damage. While her church and the Red Cross helped out with hotel rooms for a couple nights, she says their home is unlivable.
Right now it's kind of overwhelming because I haven't even been able to comprehend what all we're going to need. Obviously we're going to need another place to live. So that will be my priority this week, is trying to find a place to live and do that, and just kind of being able to replace everything.
Jill says the home is rented and she does not have renter's insurance. However, a coworker did start a GoFundMe for the family. That information is on our Q2 website. Tomorrow marks the 30th anniversary of the Helena 1989 train derailment and explosion. The final NTSB report suggests MRL train 121 experienced electrical problems shortly after passing through Helena. Now, the heat in one of the locomotive cabs was knocked out, windows fogged up, and made it difficult for the engineers to see. Crews decided to switch the order of the cars near Austin, that's about 11 miles outside Helena, to help fix that problem. However, after decoupling from the locomotive, the car started rolling back down the mountain. Minutes later, the cars crashed into other train cars, I should say, at the Benton Avenue crossing and exploded. Now, in the hours after that train explosion, Helena journalists scrambled to keep the public informed. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian talked to some of the people who covered the disaster about what they remember on that day.
The enormous explosion the morning of February 2nd, 1989, immediately got the attention of people across Helena. Local journalists were no exception.
My wife and I woke from a sound sleep by this tremendous boom.
Found myself thinking, wow, what was that? That was something big.
MTN chief political reporter Mike Dennison was then working for the Associated Press. He was one of the first reporters to arrive at the scene.
You can just tell right away, that was a major explosion.
He remembers walking out into the field where Carroll College's Nelson Stadium now stands and finding chunks of black metal thrown by the blast.
But I've been out there maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops, and just thought, I gotta get out of here. I can't be here. It's just too cold.
While Dennison was getting his information ready for the wire, television news crews were gathering dramatic footage of the aftermath.
I do remember driving through town, there was no lights anywhere. It knocked power out to almost the whole entire city.
Authorities were giving him a closer look at the crash site when a National Guard helicopter came overhead.
And on their speaker was saying, vacate the area immediately. When the helicopter hovers over your head and tells you to vacate the area, there's a pretty good chance you're going to do that.
The bitter cold was always an obstacle. At that time, TV reporters were using large video cameras that recorded onto 3/4-inch tapes like this, attached to their cameras with long cords.
What I remember is that umbilical cord became a hard pretzel in about 10 seconds. I could only shoot about 30 seconds at a time because the battery would die.
The day after the explosion, journalists were invited back to see what was left at the scene. The wreckage of the cars was covered in snow and ice because of all the water that had been sprayed to put out the fire.
It looked like somewhere on the North Pole or nothing like Helena, Montana.
Those who covered the disaster say even 30 years later, it's something they can't forget.
I still get chills, you know, when I look at the footage of what happened and how big it was.
I ride my bike through here quite a lot in the summertime, and occasionally as a train goes by, I'll remember that day in early February 1989.
In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Thanks, Jonathan, and stay tuned tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday on Face the State for more coverage of that bitterly cold February night. Well, a new summer concert coming to downtown Billings and bringing a new footprint to the area. Downtown Summer Sounds, presented by the Downtown Billings Alliance, 1111 Presents, Rocky Mountain Bank, and other sponsors, will rock out on June 29th. And the headliner, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. The Downtown Billings Alliance says they're excited to have the new outdoor concert in a great location.
But we looked at 29th Street and this spot particularly because this is kind of the topic of the One Big Sky District, and this is one of the project areas that we're going to have potentially a walking mall and some really cool indoor-outdoor markets, and we just really wanted to bring the community to a space that hopefully in the future will be a really active space in downtown. Tickets are on sale Friday, February 8th at 10 a.m. on www.downtownbillings.com. We're told there's a limited number of reduced price tickets available once tickets do go on sale. And again, the headliner, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, a blend of country rock and American roots music. They played in Billings back in 2018 to a sold-out audience at the Alberta Bear Theatre. This concert allows the DBA some funds to add to the Downtown Business Improvement District to help with things like street beautification, the flower baskets, and even Christmas decorations. Well, this week got a little sweeter. Girl Scouts in Montana and Wyoming kicked off cookie season with us here at Q2 on Montana This Morning. You can pre-order cookies starting today. Now, pre-orders will run through February 17th, and cookies will be delivered in mid-March.
What I love so much about Girl Scouts, this doesn't only satisfy the sweet tooth of people who love the Girl Scout cookies, it's also teaching them some skills. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so these girls here learn things like goal setting, business skills with money management. They learn about people skills and business ethics, and most importantly, decision making, what they're going to use their cookie proceeds for.
Cookies can also be purchased at booth sales and online through April. And a heads up, this is the last year for Savannah Smiles.
Well, coming up on tonight's 5:30 News, it's never too chilly for charity. Check out some options for giving in our community.
And later in sports, Scott shows us some of the wackiest bets you can make on Super Bowl Sunday.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.